Garlic City, another testament to mankind's folly. This place is covered in pollution. It's flooded, and the water is supposed to be like acid. The bat sent me here to find some kind of plant from the past. It has a rare fruit and is supposed to be extinct. Shouldn't be too hard to track down. It's too bad they couldn't give me more information on it. This foundry seems like a good place to start.
Welcome to the Foundry by Shayne Jabaut. This is the Foundry. It's my level. Its first mechanic is pressure plates, which are introduced here just as simple switch to open a door. They get much more complicated later on. The Foundry is a rather cold environment because the AC is constantly running and on the fritz. This place requires a key card to traverse, which is hidden over here in the storage room. Also have a variety of collectibles hidden around that you gotta find ways to get up to. The reason for this cold is mostly because of the block of ice in here. And it also slightly explains the second mechanic, which we'll get to when we get there. This mechanic is a twist on the pressure plates, which are elemental batteries, are pretty much what I call them. They're pressure plates that only take these certain batteries, and you gotta line them up with the correct signs. And as a bit of a twist, that requires some backtracking if you didn't bring it with you to begin with. There's a battery outside here. I always like a little bit of backtracking in games that lets you revisit old environments and think about previous experiences. Not that that applies much here. In this room there's a set of 5 pressure plates. On the wall there you can see some lights which hint at the correct positioning. And in this room there's another battery puzzle. This one, the batteries aren't hidden, but there's just, you gotta figure out where they go by following the wires. And then when we fill up these batteries, it causes this wheel to move and allows passage to the second area. Now the second mechanic is picking up molten metal. And when you throw it, it freezes. It's copper, so it carries a current, and this allows you to complete circuits with it. You can also use it as a platform, though it can be a little bit finicky at times, so those boxes are there as well in case you need to get up and are having trouble with the copper. Copper has a limit of 10 outside blocks, so the last one will disappear after you have 10 in existence that aren't wires, because the wires kind of just stay there. So just platform on up and allow you to get into the next room. As you can see, there were some elemental batteries hidden around here. That text blurb that popped up was just saying combine everything you've learned in here. And in here you need to put together elemental batteries and put together some wires and also get up to a high ledge. Basically everything I've had to do in this level other than the set of pressure plates, I suppose. Oh yeah, and just to mention, this song was created by my brother, LaCourse, specifically for this level. They did pretty well. I told them to make a puzzly theme that sounds cold. Just make a bit of a staircase to get on up there. And that'll allow you to exit because everything is fulfilled. As you can see, sometimes getting on blocks is hard. And Just swipe the card, and out we go. Thanks for watching my level.
Seems my way is blocked. That pump station over there should be able to drain some of the water and allow me to pass. Welcome to the pump station. This level has been created by Raymond Groves. So you can see here that your path forward is blocked by a pool of acid, and you'll have to get this pumping station back online in order to proceed forward. There's a panel there that you can use to open the door to get inside. There's a minor jump set up there. Collapsing platform there. Here's an extra area I added for added gameplay, and this area focuses on crouching. You'll have to crouch to get inside, and you'll have to move these boxes in a way to where you can crouch and get into this little area to grab this collectible. And you'll have to crouch to get back out into the main tunnel area. And in here, you can use this little elevator here to get into the main room. And when you get into this main room, you're told to interact with the computer in the center. And that'll open the door. Over here, where these two collectibles are, is the introduction to the first mechanic, which is that electric water right there. And it's just avoiding it. Here we have the practice for the first mechanic and the first breaker that you must turn on in order to get the facility active. The prompt from the main computer informs you that. And from there you can see that another room is opened up in the main room, and this takes you into this room. And this room, this is the first setup, the introduction for the second mechanic, which is moving platforms, and it's just a simple ride across. I'm using moving platforms. Here with the boxes, we have the master for the first mechanic, which is the avoiding electric water. You have to build a bridge across it. And in this part, we have the practice for the moving platforms. As you can see the player there practicing ducking, crouching. You'll have to crouch while riding these platforms in order to proceed. And you can stand up to grab that collectible. Here you can see the pipes, electrical pipes sticking out the water, causing the water to have an electrical current. And that's how you know it's dangerous. Next we have the semi-master for the moving platforms. And that's just avoiding obstacles while riding the moving platform. And we have the final breaker, not the final, second to last breaker here. And again with the master set up for the bridge building for the first mechanic. Oh no, he died. And it respawned him here. But he's got the breaker on, so he'll be able to proceed with no problem. And the bridge already built. So you can see here that there's another room open, and there's a collectible in its threshold, so it helps point the player in the direction that he needs to go. This room is the fan room, and you'll have to ride this fan blade around the room in order to get around this room. There's a collectible there that you can grab, but you have to be careful because this fan blade is slippery and you'll just slide off of it if you stand still. So while you ride it, you'll have to jump over objects and avoid objects, and eventually make it over here to the end of that. And then from here you'll be able to, see, that water is very deadly, so you got to be careful. And he's figured out how to break it, ladies and gentlemen. Ha! Cheaters never prospers. Oh, there he goes again. Well, It's fun being able to jump around, is it not? This time, you'll have to use the fan blade in order to get across this gap. Like so. And you'll have to activate the final breaker here. You can see the water squirting, you can hear the facility coming online, and you can see this bonus area open up over here, where you can come in and grab the 2 cash collectibles. The scraps pickup and the cash picked up were created by yours truly, and this is the exit of the level, and you can see that the asset is now gone and you're free to move forward. This looks like a government building. It could hold some information on the location of the plant that I'm looking for. I should explore it.
Welcome to the Abandoned Office Building by Shayne Jabaut. Upon entering the courtyard, the player will need to find a way through the crawl space into the building. This will bring them to the introduction of the computer locks mechanic. A simple interaction opens the pathway to the second mechanic, which is going to be falling platforms. Being that this is the practice for falling platforms, this is a safe zone. After successfully completing the first set of falling platforms, we now move on to the second setup, which is the practice for the computer locks. Successfully completing the computer locks opens the pathway to the second set of falling platforms, which is the practice for this mechanic. Finally bringing us to the master for the computer locks. 3 computers which require a specific combination. Successfully completing these moves us on to the last area, which will be the final setup, the master for falling platforms. After successfully completing these falling platforms, we've now reached our objective and need to collect the files from the filing cabinet.
These files say there's a book of legends hidden in the art museum down the street. Someone in the Bass has to find that interesting. It'll probably fetch a good price.
Hello, I'm Frankie Grimes. Welcome to my area called Ancient Legends. This level takes place in an old art museum, and the player needs to obtain a book of ancient legends from a safe in the main gallery. So he needs to make his way through this collapsed building, and there's some collectibles to be found here. The player needs to crouch under here, make his way into this room. There's some cash pickups. And the player needs to restore power to the generator. And once that's done, they can activate the elevator. And once they're back at the top, they make their way through this hallway here with these missing platforms. They'll activate this painting on the wall and reveal the switch behind it to open the door. The player needs to navigate through this room and duck under these electrified wires here. Make their way across these platforms here. And this is the main gallery where the main asset is located. There's some collectibles in here. And inside this safe right here is the main asset. So once they obtain that, they make their way out of the back exit, back out into the city.
All that's left now is to look in the inner city. Looks like there are some bridges left over from the people that tried to live here. They should be able to get me deeper in. Let's hope there aren't any traps lying around.
Welcome to Ruin City 1 by Ricardo PenaMcKnight. As the player enters the Ruin City, he encounters a thin line of boards which assure him that it will be his greatest difficulty crossing this acid. He finds the water bottle, his first collectible, and encounters his first mine lining the bridge, hinting at more mines to come. And indeed, there are more mines. But at this point, the players learn to brush these objects aside and out of his way in order to avoid taking damage from them. As he ascends the wooded bridge and encounters his first holes in the bridge and its rickety construction, it might occur to him at this point that the entire structure seems like a more ramshackle design within what appears to be a much more modern city, suggesting that the city is possibly far more ancient than the ramshackle construction built by some more primitive society after the fall and disuse of the city. The acid itself might well suggest some sort of flooding of toxic water at who knows what point in this process. But, theoretically, well before the new tenements came in with their bridges, hence the design and construction of such ramshackle parts. The holes in a certain section of the bridge, being smaller and more subtle than in some more obvious challenges, suggest to the player that awareness and attentiveness might well be keys to success in this deadly acidic environment, just as the mines underneath barrels and boxes suggest likewise that attention here is the key to success. Everything in this city environment has a strange glow to it, whether the red glow of the mines or the green glow of the lights. This oddity, this use of light to create a certain kind of eerie quality to the environment, which is otherwise rather normal, if somewhat decayed in appearance, gives the player every indication that this scene is meant to be horrific in some sense. And that is exacerbated when he gets to this area, finds a tent full of mines, set presumably by the one who's been setting mines all along, and finds his dinner table filled with the cannibalized meat of his companions from a bygone era. Moving on from this horrific scene, the player crosses yet another bridge and meets the twist in the encounter when mines and acid meet. And finally, beyond all of the decay and the eerie glowing, meets the warm, gentle glowing of the seeds of hope, the apple which contained a brighter future,